Hi there, this is Professor Ewing. I hope you're doing well as we near the end of the spring semester. You'll notice a couple of new tabs on the eCampus course menu for Intro to World Religions. And the first of these is the guide for completing the final video report or final project. And the next one is simply entitled Final Video Report, and that's where you're going to upload your final project or your final video report, or you're going to send me a YouTube link if you go ahead and upload this on YouTube. If you do put it up on YouTube, your final video report, you're going to need to make sure that it's a public video, because if you mark it private when you upload it, I will not have access to it and I won't be able to give you a final score. So remember, when you're uploading your video on YouTube, if that's the way you're going to do it, please mark it public. And then after I watch the video, after I see your report and give you a score next week and post your final grade for the class, you can go in and mark it private if that's what you want to do, if you don't want others to look at your video. Okay, I'm going to run through the assignment here, and hopefully this will clear up any questions you might have. I've got the guide open in front of me that I put up this evening on the eCampus site, so you should be able to open this as well. And even if you're listening to me during this video for the next few minutes or so, I'll go over the project and hopefully we'll clear up any questions you will have. Okay, quick reminder, this is worth 25 points possible, so that's 25% of your overall final grade for the class. Many of you have done well in this class so far, so I'm looking forward to you finishing strong and being creative with this project. As with the worship site project that you did, this is you're not going to have to leave your house. So this is with everything, the current scenario in mind. You're going to have two options here. You're going to either choose the first option, which is more of a research report on a particular religion, and the second option is some sort of a media project, or if you're artistically minded, might be some sort of an art project that you'll do. And then if you do option 2, which is the media project or the art project, obviously you're going to spend time on the project itself, so the video report will be much shorter, about 3 minutes. And I'm going to go over these in detail, so to clear up any questions you might have. The one stipulation on this is that you have to choose a religion outside of your own broad tradition or background. So this should be pretty straightforward, but I go over this in class usually. If you're raised in a Buddhist family or you're a Buddhist yourself, choose something outside of the tradition of Buddhism. If you were raised Roman Catholic or Eastern Orthodox or Protestant or possibly non-denominational Christian, those all fall within the broad world religion of Christianity. If you were raised a Muslim, Sunni, or Shia, or various different groupings, that's all going to fall under Islam. And so you would want to choose something outside of that religious tradition. Now, if you say, okay, Professor Ewing, I don't consider myself religious and my family didn't follow a particular religion, then choose something that's outside of your normal worldview or perspective. Okay, so you may not consider yourself religious. That's fine and well, but choose something that's going to be interesting for you to research. Okay. Okay, option number one, if you decide to do the research project, you're going to be researching a particular religion. Okay, um, this is wide open, and again, you're not going to have to leave your house, so this is going to probably, for the most part, be an internet-based research project. You can choose quote unquote dead religions, in other words, ancient religions that are no longer practiced, like ancient Egyptian religion, Norse religion, Roman religion, or you could choose one of the broad major world religions, possibly even something we've covered in class, and you're going to go to it in a little more detail. Or you could choose what are termed NRMs, new religious movements. For example, the Hare Krishna tradition or Scientology. These are classified as new religious movements. In other words, movements that have been started, say, within the last 50, possibly 100 years, but usually since the 50s or the 60s, 1960s. That was a period of spiritual exploration, and a lot of new groups have started since that time. So those are wide open. The only thing I ask is that it be a religion, okay? It shouldn't be a parody of a religion. For example, online only based groups that are clearly sort of poking fun at organized religions. Try to stay away from that. Okay, that's more of a virtual phenomenon as opposed to studying the phenomenon of a modern world religion or a new religious movement. Okay, so make sure it is a religious tradition with followers, and possibly local worship sites, etc. Okay, if you're doing this, I give you a guideline here. You're going to have to record yourself, which is fairly easy to do nowadays. Most desktops can come with some sort of a camera, and you can do like I'm doing right now on my desktop. I'm recording myself, and then I'll post this video, and it's fairly easy to do this. Don't let eCampus drive you crazy at this point. If you do your video report and you're attempting to upload it on eCampus and you're watching the little thing go around and around and around for, I would say longer than, I don't know, half an hour, maybe an hour, or it times out on you, that's always fun. Don't drive yourself nuts. What's real easy is simply to go to YouTube, sign in, make yourself an account. It doesn't take that long, and simply upload your video report on YouTube. But if you do this, make sure you mark your video public again. Okay, don't mark it private. Sometimes students do that inadvertently, and then they send me the link, and then it says video unavailable, and then they get an email from me saying, you got to go back and make your video public, otherwise I can't see your video and I can't give you a final score for this project. Okay, so don't do that. Excuse me. So you're going to research your religious tradition, whichever one you end up choosing. Various resources should be available to you. Interviews, videos, documentaries, online resources, etc. Wikipedia is fine, but it shouldn't be your main source. It should be kind of maybe a starting point. And then go to the resources section in the Wikipedia article, and sometimes those will give you some helpful internet sites, etc. And this is fairly straightforward. If you spend a couple of minutes on each of these items that I list here, your 10 to 12 minute video report is going to take care of itself. It's going to be done. Okay, so first one, background or history of the religion. What is the official name of the religion? So, for example, with the Hare Krishnas, Hare Krishna obviously is a popular way of referring to the tradition. It's not the official title of their religious tradition. The official title is the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. So when you start your video, always state your name. Say, hi, my name is John Ewing. And the religion or the religious tradition that I'm researching is known as Islam or Mahayana Buddhism or the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. Okay, that's the official name of the religion. Where does it come from? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, their guru came from East India. He was ethnically Indian. He was in the broader Hindu tradition. He came to the United States with the idea of spreading his particular tradition, which was a devotional style to Lord Krishna, who they believe, the Hare Krishnas believe, is the expression of the Supreme, is God in a Western sense with a capital G. He came to the United States on a boat in 1966, I think it was, or 67. And he spread his teachings to many of the flower children, or people involved in the hippie movement, or various things that were going on, psychedelic movements, etc. And he got a lot of them to convert to his form of Hinduism. And it's very unique even within the Hindu world and Hindu practice, and they chant and they sing, etc. So what part of the world do people practice it? It's fairly widespread now. Major cities in the US all have Hare Krishna temples. There's one in downtown Dallas. And I've had Chandra Das, the clergy, come as a guest speaker to many of my world religions classes and do Q&A and give a presentation on his particular religion. How many adherents does it have worldwide? I'm not quite sure, but you would have to research this. Excuse me, and I'm sure that's readily available either on their info site or on Wikipedia. They're going to give you a pretty good estimate how many people practice this. Is it an old religion or is it fairly new? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, that depends on if you're talking about the Western countries. In the United States, it's considered a new religious movement because it was essentially kicked off or founded in this country in New York in 1967. And they would identify themselves with a Vaishnava tradition that goes back at least 500 years into India. And so it has a longer history in the context of Indian Hinduism. Number two, belief system, worldview. What do the Hare Krishnas believe, or whatever the religion that you're researching? What is their belief system? Try to describe their worldview a little bit. Do they believe in an afterlife? That's important. And then, most importantly, what makes this religion unique among other faiths? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, it's a very exuberant worship style. If you've ever seen this on YouTube video or you've seen them chanting downtown or in a park, there's a lot of musical instruments, drums, cymbals, chimes, maybe a harmonium, and then there's usually someone who's leading the devotional chant, and it gets very exuberant. And so that kind of sets them apart from other more quiet Hindu or possibly Buddhist meditation styles. So that's something that you might mention. Talk a little bit about their rituals and their practice. How do they practice their faith? Is there a priesthood or some sort of special clergy involved? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, Chandra Das, whom I'm friends with, is the ordained clergy and lives on site at the Hindu temple, at the Hare Krishna temple, I should say, downtown. So there's definitely clergy in that particular tradition. Are scholars important for the community? Yes. Um, and they learn Sanskrit, which is the ancient language of India, so that they can access the Vedas, which are the earliest scriptures in the Hindu tradition. And then they have a lot of writings by their particular founder, who came to the United States, as I've said, in the 60s. Do they have any sacred writings or oral traditions, teachings that they hold dear? Yes, their founder wrote a ton of books, but he wrote a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. And in English translation, it's called the Bhagavad Gita as it is. And so he's giving kind of his take or his interpretation on this 2,000-year-old devotional sacred text in the Hindu tradition. Do they have teachings that they hold dear? The Hare Krishnas believe strongly in reincarnation, and they have a very interesting way that they defend that teaching and explain that teaching. Do they hold regular services? Yes, they do, especially on Sunday afternoons. They have a worship service. They also have a restaurant, a vegetarian restaurant on their worship site. Are the rituals simple or complex? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, their main devotional chant is literally saying or reciting the names of God, which for them is Krishna. And so it's very simple. Some of the teachings get rather involved, so there's some complexity, but their devotional style is fairly straightforward. Number 4, code of ethics or sacred law. Do they have a specific, does your group that you're researching have a specific ethical code that they follow? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, they are strict vegetarians. They do not believe in eating any flesh foods. So that means no beef, no lamb, no chicken, no fish. And I don't even think they eat egg. I think they see that that is not something that they would want to eat karmically. So that's very interesting. Do they have a special calendar or way that they mark time? Yes, they do. They follow a particular calendar based on their religious festival cycle. Their main deity is Krishna, and they believe that he is an expression of the Supreme. So they're going to be, their festival calendar is going to be focused around the worship of Krishna and the significant saints, for lack of a better term, that help to promote this devotional style and this religious tradition. And then number 5, are there any other things that make this religious tradition unique? In the case of the Hare Krishnas, many members of the Hare Krishna religious tradition in the United States are Westerners. In other words, they're Americans. And so that makes it unique. It's a modern devotional form of Hinduism, and we tend to associate Hinduism with East India or East Indians in South Asia, or possibly with other countries that border on India, like Nepal, where 88% of the population identify with the Hindu religious tradition. So that makes the Hare Krishna tradition unique, is the fact that it's an accessible, almost Americanized form of Hindu devotion and practice. Okay, so that's fairly straightforward. If you do those 5 things and you spend a couple of minutes, 2-3 minutes on each of those, you're going to be in the neighborhood of 10 to 12 minutes. I would say the best video reports are about 12 minutes long. That's pretty sufficient to cover all the bases. Occasionally I get video reports that are in like the 14 to 15 minute range. That's okay. If it's any longer than about 15 minutes, I'm going to stop watching it at that point. This does not have to be your life's work. And so, if you can't get it done, I would say in about 14, 15 minutes, then it probably needs to be digested. So think in terms of about 10 minutes on the short side. Anything less than that's going to be sort of surfacey and maybe not an adequate job. You don't need to go really quickly. You can just talk at a normal pace. Even if you're a little bit nervous, just remind yourself that I'm the only one looking at your video, so it's not like it's going to go viral on YouTube. And I would say, 10 to 12 minutes, that's going to be great, and you're going to do really well on this project if you've researched this and you're prepared. Okay. For option number 2, this is for, maybe if you're more artistically minded or more techy, this is possibly the option for you. So I have photo essay. Now, the only thing about a photo essay is I don't want you to go on the internet and just simply do a Google image search, right, where I'm looking at someone else's photos of the Taj Mahal in India. A photo essay should be your work. It should be photographs that you've taken. Okay, so I'm open on this. I'm pretty flexible. The only thing is it has to be related to a religion. So it shouldn't be photos of, your Uncle Bill and at the family picnic, right? And he's an interesting guy, and so you took photos of him. But it's got nothing to do with religion. And remember, this is a world religions class. So if you choose to do a photo essay, they should be your own photos. Doesn't have to be 100 photos. Should be probably in the range of about half a dozen, maybe to 10 or 12 max. Okay. Don't send me 50 photos. Okay. I'm not going to be able to look at 40, 50 photos. So, but they should be your own photos, and it should be connected to, again, a religion that's outside of your own tradition. Okay. That should be the theme. Poetry. If you're a poet, or you like rap music, etc., sometimes this comes naturally to some folks. I've had people write poems about Siddhartha, about Jesus, about the Torah, about Confucius, about Taoism. So again, as long as it's related to a religion or a religious figure, historically speaking, I think that's going to be fine. Artwork, that's fairly straightforward. Some people like to paint or draw. I've had students do digital art. That's all wide open as far as this project goes. As far as videos go, I used to have an option here where you could interview clergy or somebody from another religion. If you're able to do that, maybe via the internet, that's a possibility. You could ask a few questions or touch on a few religious themes with someone from a different tradition, and I think that would be really interesting. Again, if you do that, if you do some sort of a video related to an interview or something of a religious nature, think in terms of about 15 minutes maximum, and then that's when I'm going to hit the pause button and just grade you on what I've looked at so far. So this doesn't mean make an hour long, video for CNN or something like that. A virtual visit to a religious site of your choosing, okay, including maybe some photographs. Now, the important thing on this is that I don't want it just to be what you did your worship site report on. Okay, I don't want, occasionally I have students that try to avoid doing this final project by simply rehashing their worship site visit. Okay, so don't do that. If you did a Buddhist temple like Dao Quang, let's say, for your worship site project, and you're intrigued by Buddhism, choose a different location, maybe a different tradition within Buddhism, a different site. Don't just send me photos from the time that you did your worship site report project. Is that straightforward? Okay. If you include photos or a work of art or a poem, you can hold those up at the start of your explanatory video, just like this, um, so I can see it, so that it's visible. I need to see it so that I know that you did it, that it's your work, etc. If it's a poem, maybe put it in a Word document and send that to me as an email attachment so I can open up the poem easily and read that. And then you're going to start your explanatory video, okay? Because I know you're devoting more time in this option to your project, your explanatory video report is going to be much shorter than if you did the 10 to 12 minute video for option 1. This one's going to be about 2 to 3 minutes. I have 5 minutes up there, but the explanatory video is going to be fairly straightforward. Once you have completed your art project or your media project, you'll need to record your own explanation of your project, in which you answer the following 3 questions. So this should be fairly straightforward. Again, start your video by stating your name. Hello, my name is, etc. So I know it's you, right? And then number 1, what religion is your project related to? If you wrote a poem or painted a picture of Siddhartha under the Bodhi tree meditating, then obviously you're connected to the religious tradition of Buddhism. Okay, so number 1's done. Number 2, what motivated you to choose that particular religion? Well, hey, professor, I was in class, and when we studied Taoism, it really intrigued me because I didn't know Taoism existed up to that point, and I thought it was really fascinating, and I like to focus on nature and the natural element, etc. So again, 20, 30 seconds and that question takes care of itself. But, and number 3, I want you to explain your project a bit. Tell me what I'm looking at. If you painted a picture, if you drew a picture, if you composed a photo essay, etc., describe a little bit what I'm looking at. Say, hey, these are pictures of a religious shrine down the street from my house, and I've always driven by this, and it was very intriguing, and so I dug into it, and I found out some interesting facts or information about that, etc. If it's an art project, tell me what materials you used. I used chalk. I did, pastel drawing. I painted a picture and I used oil paints or watercolor, etc. Fairly straightforward. If it's some place that you actually drove by or took photos of, describe that to me. And just a little bit behind your intention, or maybe what you learned when you did this project about the religion that it was related to. And again, that's fairly straightforward. You should be able to answer those 3 questions if you choose option 2 in about 3 minutes max. No problem on that, okay? I have the due date here. Final project is due by 5 p.m. Monday, right, which is a week from this coming Monday, May the 11th. Let me explain that. Typically, I have these projects due by the last day of instruction, which would have been the Friday previous. In other words, Friday, May the 8th is considered the last day of instruction. What I thought I'd do, since we're not meeting any longer on campus, is I would go ahead and give you the weekend previous to and including the first day of finals week. Because if you submit this by the deadline, which is 5 p.m. Monday, May the 11th, then on Tuesday following, I will be able to watch your video project and all of the video reports from our class. And then I will be able to score in eCampus, give you a score for the final project on that day. And then by Wednesday, the 13th of May, I will post the final grades for the class, for the entire class, including attendance, participation, etc., on eConnect. And so everything will be done and completed by at least Wednesday of finals week, which is May the 13th. So make sure that whatever is attached to your project, you either electronically email to me or again, you send me a valid link to YouTube or wherever I'm going to look at your video. Okay. Remember that if you choose option 1, your video is going to be a little bit longer. It's going to be about 10 to 12 minutes because you're simply reporting on the information that you learned from your research on a particular religion. If you choose option 2, the media or art project, you're going to spend a little bit of time on your project, and then you're also going to do a video report which will just explain your project, and that's going to be about 3 minutes. Okay, so make sure I get all of your links and your information and whatever. Be as creative as you want to be on this, and I think you'll do well and you'll finish strong here in this very difficult spring semester that we've just come through. Okay, take care, be safe, and hopefully this introduction will answer any questions you might have on doing your final project. All right.